You know, we're often told that success is all about being the fastest, the strongest, or the biggest. But what if that's just not true? Today, we're going to dive into a mindset called predatory thinking. And it's not about overpowering your competition. It's about completely outsmarting the problem itself.
Okay, so picture this classic story. Two explorers are deep in a jungle, and suddenly a tiger appears. One of the explorers immediately starts putting on his running shoes. The other one looks at him, totally confused, and says, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a tiger." And the first explorer just calmly replies, "I don't have to outrun the tiger. I just have to outrun you." Now, that's the classic punchline, right? But predatory thinking asks an even smarter question.
Because what if you're both slow? What if winning has nothing to do with running at all? That's the real puzzle here. The answer is, you don't play the tiger's game, you change the game completely. So where does this powerful idea come from? Well, it was developed by the brilliant advertising mind of Dave Trott. He basically argues that most of us are trained to solve problems head-on, but a predatory thinker, they don't just solve the problem, they redefine it from the ground up.
Think of it this way. Instead of trying to solve for x in a really tough equation, you just change the equation itself. You shift the entire context. All of a sudden, an impossible problem becomes solvable simply because you're looking at it from a totally new angle.
And you can really see the difference when you put them side by side. Conventional thinking just follows the path. It accepts the situation as it is. Predatory thinking is totally different. It stops and asks, wait, why are these the rules? Why is this even the problem in the first place? It's a huge shift from being just a player in the game to becoming the game's designer. So let's break down what this actually looks like in the real world. All right, our first principle is all about flipping the script, taking control of the narrative. We all deal with criticism, we all face failure. And the conventional rule is, you're supposed to feel bad about it, right? You let it define you. A predatory thinker says, "No way," and rewrites that rule. So for a great example of this, let's look at the story of Tim Martin. He was not what you'd call a star student. In fact, he got a lot of negative feedback about what his future might hold. But one particular comment really stuck with him. I mean, wow, can you imagine hearing that from a teacher? The conventional rule says you either try to forget it or you let it haunt you forever. But Martin, he did neither. He decided to rewrite the rule of what that name, Weatherspoon, even meant. This is just an absolutely brilliant move. Instead of letting that moment of failure be a source of shame, he made it a public, daily motivator. Every single time he saw his company's name, it wasn't a reminder of failure anymore. Nope, it was a daily, public reminder of why he had to succeed. He totally rewrote the rule. Okay, so the second principle here really pushes back on an idea that's super common today, especially in the business world, the idea that, everyone can win. Predatory thinking says, no, they can't. Your gain is very often someone else's loss. You see it all the time. So much marketing out there just tries to be, nice. It wants to be friendly and agreeable to everybody. The problem with that? Nice is often completely invisible. In a competitive market, you're not just trying to be liked, you're trying to take market share, attention, and customers away from your rivals. You are in a fight. And to really get a sense of what that fight looks like, just look at this number, 89%. What do you think that could possibly represent in the world of advertising? That's it. That's the percentage of all advertising that goes completely unnoticed. It's not even remembered by the public. Almost 9 out of 10 ads are basically invisible. They just disappear into the noise because they're too safe, too generic, too nice. They lose the fight for attention before it even begins.
So this completely changes the question you should be asking. The goal isn't just about checking off boxes to create something that's technically correct. The real goal is to make something that cuts through all that clutter. You have to embrace the fight for attention and create something that is simply impossible to ignore.
And that leads us perfectly into our third and final principle. Once you've decided you're going to rewrite the rules and you're ready to fight for attention, how do you actually create something that works? Well, the answer starts way before you even think about the solution. It starts with defining the real problem. This is such a powerful example. You had these well-meaning organizations donating high-tech incubators to help save premature babies. Sounds like a great solution, right? But the infant mortality rate wasn't going down. Why? Because these expensive, complicated machines were just sitting in corners, broken. And this is the key insight, the aha moment. The problem wasn't a lack of incubators, it was a lack of repairable incubators. So by reframing the brief, the core problem, from "we need modern incubators" to "we need incubators that can be fixed with local parts and skills," the entire game changed.
And the solution that came from this? It was absolutely genius. They let the function, local repairability, determine the form of the incubator. This thing, built from old car parts, ended up saving more lives than the fancy state-of-the-art machines, all because it was designed for its real-world context. The form followed the function.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. How can you start using this? Because these principles aren't just cool stories, they're a practical toolkit for changing how you approach any challenge you face.
So step 1, always reframe the problem. Don't just accept the challenge as it's presented to you. Step 2, challenge the rules and the assumptions that everyone else takes for granted. Step 3, remember you're in a competition. You have to fight to be noticed. And finally, step 4, make sure you are solving the right problem before you ever start thinking about the solution.
And in the end, it all comes back to what Dave Trott said. This mindset is about relentlessly questioning things. It's about refusing to accept the status quo just because it's, well, the status quo. That is the engine of all real innovation. So that leaves us with one final question, and this one is for you. Think about the biggest challenge you're facing right now, in your work or in your life. That's your tiger. The question is, are you just trying to outrun it, or are you ready to stop, take a breath, and start rewriting the rules of the game?